Time to look at the front pages of some select national dailies to bring you up to speed with the latest news stories and the headlines of the day. As usual, we'll start with a look at the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper for today, Monday, January 22nd, 2024. All right, at the very top, a reminder that the 21st Daily Trust Dialogue is coming up this week, Thursday, and some of the headliners are there. The Minister of the Economy, Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Minister of Finance, Wale Edun is there. The NLC President, Joe Ajero, is there, and also the immediate past President of the Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry, alongside a variety of others. The African of the Year Award will also be presented on that day. But the big story of the day on the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper is Arewa Consultative Forum rejects relocation of CBN and FAAN offices as the Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria. It says it's mobilizing top northerners against the move. Is this crying over spilled milk? Well, more on that on page 4 of the Daily Trust newspaper for today. Nabiha's sisters' freedom. Police, family disagree. What is this disagreement about? Do some further reading, but I think the most important point is that the girls are back. Other victims also recently abducted in different parts of Abuja have been returned after ransom payment. But if you do want to read the different accounts of both the family members and the Nigerian police, available for you on page 24. 16 passengers die in Zaria-Kano highway crash. Very tragic incident. The details available on page 6. Electricity subsidy. Federal government pays over 5 trillion naira in 10 years, or paid over 5 trillion naira in 10 years from electricity subsidy. We just finished a conversation around that just moments ago. Well, that's it on the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper for today. Let's take a look at the front page of the Punch newspaper for today, shall we? The Punch newspaper for today. Very interesting stories there. And it starts with this one. Dangote Refinery plans supply of 150,000 IPMAN stations. Okay. 150,000 IPMAN stations. So, that is part of the agreement. I mean, last week we had a conversation with the president of IPMAN, and they seem to have come to an arrangement with the Dangote Refinery about the supply system, and 150,000 of those stations have been identified by Dangote. Foreign medical school bills gulped $1.58 billion in 6 months. So this is just the capital flight that we're worried about, that we've been talking about, and this is coming from the Apex Bank, and it should know what it is saying. 1.5 billion in just 6 months, paying for tuition fees and medical bills. Imagine if that money stayed in the Nigerian economy. Just imagine. More on that on page 11. Tinubu panel asks states to suspend low revenue taxes. That is also a story you can find on page 11. Kidnapping epidemic. Banks enabling rapid growth of abduction industry. Well, that's very indicting. According to experts, pages 2, 4, and 5 has all the details. Nigerians demand more from Tinubu. Security chiefs. Abuja family confirms ransom payment. And these are pictures as goods destroyed as fire guts 10-story building in Lagos. It's a market building, and unfortunately this happened over the weekend. A lot more needs to be done about our emergency services and also the prevention mechanisms that need to be put in place to ensure that these buildings have the necessary facilities that can contain some of these disasters. NSCDC says it foiled 48 bandit attacks on schools, according to their Commandant General. I hope they get to do more. now that the schools are back in session. Benin Ore Expressway kidnappers freed my father after 3 million naira ransom, according to The Sun, also available on page 4 and 5. Forensic probe of Ibadan blast to determine next action, according to the government, as they continue to look at, some of these developments regarding what happened in Bodija this past week. First News is up next. The big story: over 5,000 Nigerians languishing in Benin Republic prisons. Ohaneze Youth Council says alleges extrajudicial killings, harassment, maltreatment, undue detention. Claims young Nigerians held in 13 different prisons in Benin Republic. Our 19-day experience in kidnappers' captivity freed Abuja sisters, and it's just going to be horrific tales. And we talk about the psychosocial support that is needed, and these girls and any other captive, they need this, because they need to find a way to deal with, the aftershocks of that horrific incident that would probably change your life forever. About an explosion, over 90% of victims discharged from hospitals, according to Governor Makinde. Discloses 230 houses marked for structural tests. Kidnappers release more Abuja residents, and federal government delegation to visit scene today. Why is it taking so long in regards to that Ibadan explosion? Let's take a look at the Guardian newspaper for today then, shall we? Skepticism over inflation, insecurity, and economic outlook. Performance of selected African currencies against dollar in the past 1 year. Nigeria depreciated by 49%. And you can see a breakdown there of all of the information as a result of that. And that in itself tells a clear picture of how well or badly the Naira is doing regarding the performance against other African currencies. It is saying that the Naira is down by 28, or rather inflation is up by 28.92%. So it also tells you that the Naira is not doing particularly very well. Leadership hustle, or rather leadership huddles for opposition parties' mega merger structure. And I think that is part of the editorial on the Guardian newspaper for today. Court orders CBN to release MTN's funds repatriation details. Stop Akpabio Abbas from increasing budget, Serap tells court. Averting catastrophe of brain drain in the health sector. That is also on the editorial page of the Guardian newspaper. Theft drops by 82% as 1.2 billion naira OML 17 production hits 40,000 barrels per day. Niger Delta youths to shut flow stations, cut crude oil output. Okay, one hand we're having some good news, on the other hand there is some bad news with regards to activities of militants in the Niger Delta. Falana urges states to abolish pension payment to ex-governors. It is morally wrong, economically not viable, and politically just suspect. Because these people, after 4 or 8 years in government, are capable of taking care of themselves, and unfortunately, we still give them, so much money after their years in service. I think Fashola was just speaking recently in one of the programs on one of the national stations, and he was talking about getting paid 577,000 naira monthly as his pension. And I know that he doesn't need it. Two-time governor, two-time minister of the federal government. I doubt if he needs that, pension money, but it's money. So people mostly don't say no if you're giving them free money at the end of the day. All right, let's get to some of the analysis now and navigate some of the big stories making the headlines this morning. Join us to analyze the news is Suleiman Ubagaya. He's the CEO of Sky Limit Media Group. editor and former deputy president, Nigeria Guild of Editors, is joining us as usual this beautiful Monday morning to analyze some of the top stories. Good morning to you, and thank you very much for stopping by.
Thank you also for having me.
Right. Okay, let's talk about what is clearly scratching the heads of the Arewa Consultative Forum. They're not particularly happy about this relocation moves. Some of the CBN departments are being moved back to Lagos. FAAN is also moving its headquarters to Lagos. They say this is for efficiency, to maximize utility, and so on and so forth. Clearly, from the government's point of view, this is based on an objective analysis of what needs to be done in the interest of the country. But clearly, the Arewa Consultative Forum disagrees. What are your thoughts about it?
Well, the way I see it, this is just a manifestation of a rumor that started 14 months ago. In early November 2012, there were rumors to the effect that if then aspiring president candidate Tinubu won the election, the Imperial Capital Territory was going to be relocated to Lagos. And I remember on the 30th of November, Bai Onanuga, my big brother, who was director media, I think, of the presidential campaign, issued a very strong worded statement condemning the rumor and those spreading it, assuring the nation that President Tinubu had no such plan. And he even called those circulating the rumor as he described them as being in the funeral of the PDP. It was so uncharitable at the time, and a lot of people felt it was just mere rumor, and they took it on its face value. And of course, northern Nigeria, even though had two candidates in Atiku Abubakar and Rabi Musa Kwankwaso, decided to vote for Tinubu. A majority of northerners voted for Tinubu at the expense of Rabi Kwankwaso and Atiku Abubakar, simply because they felt that fairness will demand that after 8 years of Muhammadu Buhari, a northerner, a southerner should take over. So predominantly because of those reasons, a lot of people in the north supported Bola Tinubu. The main reason, like I said, is unity of the country. There was a need after, the 8 years of Buhari that was seen to have divided the country. There was a need for the next president of the country to be a unifier. And the people felt that Tinubu was that kind of person. And after the rumor being dispelled about the relocation of the FCT to Lagos, a lot of people, like I said, took it on its face value, and on election day, they voted for Tinubu. Unfortunately, just about 7 months after taking over power, we are seeing the manifestations of the same rumor that started 14 months ago. It was denied, like I said, on the 30th of November, and now it's taking a life of its own. It started with the CBN, relocating almost half of its staff to Lagos, even though the circular talks about other outstations. But we have not had of any, even one staff, been transferred to any outstation. All of them, about 1,700, have been transferred to Lagos. And some key departments of the CBN also have been relocated to Lagos. Then 2 days later, Federal Airport Authority also did the same thing. It has since become a pattern. The Federal Ministry of Aviation has since been engaging in policies that seem to be anti-North. I don't know for what reason.
Why do you say that?
Well, it appointed, first of all, it terminated the appointments of directors and appointed new ones. In the new ones appointed, out of only about 18% are northerners. All the others are southerners. We shouldn't be talking about this north-south divide, in a country that seeks unity, But then, once these kind of things continue to happen, one is compelled to, to have to mention it. I have a background that is cosmopolitan, so I really hate talking about division. But unfortunately, the Ministry of Aviation under Festus Keyamo, a lawyer, a respected lawyer for that matter, seems to be engaging in a policy that is anti-North. So,
well, is there not a chance that just we have the right people in the right positions? They just don't happen to be North, and that is just the end of the story. It's not necessarily targeted at sidelining or marginalizing the northern part of the country.
well, that is simplistic to say. Don't forget, there is the federal character principle that is should be applied in all appointments, across different sectors in the federation, be it aviation, be it agriculture, be it education, whichever sector. There is a need for federal character principle to be applied. So there is no way a larger segment of the Nigerian society will be discriminated against, and the simplistic explanation of fairness or competence will not be brought to bear. I think it is wrong.
So, you think the Arewa Consultative Forum has a point to make here? Because this is just a decongestion effort in the best interest of the country. They tick all the boxes. Former Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Kingsley Moghalu, attested to the fact that, listen, Abuja is saturated in terms of their CBN operations and they need to be decongestion. And we know Lagos is not just like any other state. We know what Lagos stands for economically speaking. It was the former capital of the country just some 3-4 decades ago. But give me your take as to this political view versus the explanation that the government is giving as to the reason why this move is happening now, because this is not just the first time something like this has been put in the public domain.
Yeah, you are right. President Obasanjo started it. Just a few days after he assumed office in 1999, he moved the headquarters of the Nigerian Port Authority to Lagos. He also moved the headquarters.
And it made sense.
Well,
I mean, you don't have ports here in Abuja.
It does not matter.
Yeah, but you don't have ports here in Abuja, so it wouldn't make sense to have the Ports Authority in Abuja because the ports activities are in Lagos.
No, it's all about regulation. And regulation doesn't...
But why does everything have to be in... You go to the United States, not everything is concentrated in Washington, D.C. Not everything. I mean, and it's supposed to be, where the capital is.
Well, you see, you have the right to decentralize. If we are talking about decentralization, then of course we should move the headquarters of NNPC to Port Harcourt or to Akwa Ibom, being the
Not
biggest oil
necessarily. I
producing
mean, if you look at the volatility there with regards to security and operations.
No, even Lagos is not that safe. If you are talking about security or volatility, it's not that safe.
I would say comparatively, Lagos is even safer compared to Abuja at the moment.
But except for the incidences of the last few days, Abuja has been the safest city in Nigeria. There have been incidences.
Used to.
Sorry, I didn't get that.
I said used to be the safest.
Yeah, that's what I said. That
right.
Until the incidences of the last few days or few weeks, let me put it the last 2 weeks, so to say, or 3 weeks, because I remember the Nabiha kidnapping took place 19 days ago, and
before that there were several other issues. But I get your point.
But criminal activities also take place all over the country, and especially in Lagos.
I mean, so you're well traveled. You know of the opportunities, the economic opportunities, and the advantage, the comparative advantage that Lagos has over most states.
Yeah.
It's not just like any other state, right? Is there a chance that because the president comes from Lagos, that's why people find it suspect? Because I imagine if Muhammadu Buhari, for instance, when he was in charge, had done this, it wouldn't be seen as something against the northern part of the country.
No, even when Muhammadu Buhari, under his leadership, some ministers located some key institutions in Daura, there have been criticisms. But then that one is different because those institutions are not as instrumental to the economy as the Federal Airport Authority or the Central Bank of Nigeria. So the reason why these criticisms are coming to fore simply have to do with the fact that these are institutions that are very instrumental to the economy of Nigeria. So and talking about Lagos having some advantages, you are tilting, you are widening the existing gap economic gap between the north and the south, you know, by relocating everything to Lagos. Lagos already has
Not
is
everything.
the biggest.
I think it's just a few CBN
Well, you see, this is just the beginning. Let's be very honest.
Right.
Probably, if God grants us life, in the next few months, we'll sit down here and talk about more ministries or presidents being relocated to Lagos. It's a pattern. It's a well-designed script that is being implemented. I'm telling you.
Okay. And you think it has something to do with an anti-northern agenda? You believe
Definitely, I believe so.
Okay.
And I do not expect somebody like President Tinubu to continue to allow these things to happen.
Okay. Some people are screaming at their screens and saying, well, but IBB moved the capital from Lagos to Abuja and, you know, everybody had to deal with it. So maybe moving a few federal institutions back to Lagos is a fair balance.
Well, you see, sorry, I have to make a comment to that. IBB moved the imperial capital from Lagos to Abuja because in 1976, the administration of late General Murtala Mohammed enacted a policy of relocating the imperial capital to the center of the country for strategic reasons that have to do with security and accessibility. So IBB moving the nation's capital from Lagos to Abuja was never unilateral. It was in full accord with the law.
Yeah, well,
but this one is unilateral. They're just employing semantics, you know,
okay.
to try to...
I mean, you said strategic, you said security. They're also saying strategic and economically beneficial. But, you know, we see things differently. Talking about the unfortunate development that has happened over the past couple of weeks that has got a lot of Nigerians talking with regards to the security in the FCT. Nabia's sisters have regained their freedom, and we're all happy for it. It was a happy weekend. Other kidnapped victims were also released to their families after paying ransom. However, there's a twist to this story because the police is saying they rescued them and the family is saying, no, we actually paid ransom and we had to wait for 2 days in suspense, not knowing what's going to happen until we got our sisters or children back. What are your thoughts first and foremost about, you know, how this whole development transpired? Nabiha was killed. 3 other victims were also killed when these kidnappers asked for ransom and they didn't get paid, you know, the monies when they asked. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, first of all, we pray for the souls of the departed ones to rest in peace. And may their family also be comforted. You know, it's a very monumental loss for anyone to lose his loved ones. Especially on account of kidnapping. I know how heart-wrenching it could be. But this back and forth between the family and the police, I would rather align with the position of the Nigerian police. You understand? Because you see, even though some families do pay ransom, the reason why police insist ransoms are not paid is simply to discourage people from paying ransom, one. Secondly, to discourage people that are feeling maybe kidnapping is a way out of the economic difficulty they are facing, to kind of discourage them, to feel that, okay, even if you kidnap someone, you could end up being arrested and without getting even a dime paid for your nefarious efforts. So, but unfortunately, victim families always want to insist that ransom has been paid.
Always want to insist, or they're just stating the facts? Because Nabiha was killed because they couldn't raise the 60 million naira that the kidnappers asked for. And we saw a crowdfunding that included even the former minister of the federal capital that's asking for money as a result of that. So if you are saying the police is right, what happened to the kidnappers? If this was a rescue attempt, what happened to the kidnappers? Who did the police, engage in before, these sisters were released?
No, there have been instances where rescue efforts are successful without the perpetrators being arrested. Most likely, at a later time, they will be arrested, hopefully. But the most important thing has now been done. The fact that the victims have been rescued.
But isn't there a chance that the police is taking credit for what it didn't do?
It does not matter. It shouldn't matter.
I think it does.
No,
if we're interested in the truth, because the family say we paid ransom, that's what secured their release.
You see, it's not just about, there is one thing Nigerians need to know. This idea of hyphen kidnapping incidences and the ransom payments should be discouraged. I paid ransom in 2012, June 2012. You understand, some family members were kidnapped, and it fell on me to pay the ransom, and I did pay the ransom. And this is the first time I'm mentioning it in the public forum, You understand? You don't need
but
to.
How would you have felt if after paying ransom, the police said they saved your relative instead?
They did, and I didn't argue.
Yeah, but would that be, the honest thing? That, they're taking credit for what they didn't do?
No, it's not about taking credit. Like I told you, it's about discouraging the practice. It's not even a good thing, first of all, to pay ransom.
It's not ideal to pay ransom. I mean, people are paying through their teeth. It's not as if people have monies to pay ransom. But unfortunately, this is the reality. But if we don't admit that this is the reality, and we're saying that the police rescued, aren't we being economical with the truth here? Because
you see, it's like you being an editor, and maybe the kidnappers were able to kill, let's say, 100 people a day before publication, a newspaper publication. The following day, you are expected to publish that 100 people have been killed by kidnappers. Now, the police would now call you to say, okay, please, editor, downplay it to 10 people. And you ask them why. They will always tell you that publishing, saying it is 100 people will send jitters down the spine of a lot of people. A lot of people will be afraid and will start losing faith in the system. You understand? So for that, and secondly, the kidnappers or the criminals will feel more emboldened, to continue to do what they are doing, since that, okay, the whole country is, maybe they have not even counted the people they have killed. Okay. Maybe they are thinking they killed 50, and here you are confirming 100.
Okay. So, I think we're in the business of telling the truth, and regardless of what happens, we have to tell the truth no matter what. But then again, unfortunately, there are a lot of more stories I would love for us to talk about, but we are completely out of time. So we're going to have to leave it here for now. Alhaji Suleiman, thank you very much, as always, for your insight and for the analysis. Really appreciate you for stopping by, as always.
I really wish we had more time to
I really wish we did have more time also.